In this week's video, we're going to be building a little shanty from items you are most likely going to throw away, plus some basic supplies. This idea originates from a book. This book had full details on how to cut out your pieces and rough sizes and everything needed to make the little shanty. So now I'm going to go over the supplies that I used in this video. I used some cereal boxes for pretty much my shingles and siding. I used a strawberry container for my window glazing, a straw for a chimney, hot glue gun, and some tacky glue. Alright, next up we're going to be measuring out our cardboard and cutting it to the shapes that was shown in the book. I'm going to speed this up by 3 or 4 times just to make it a bit faster. So here I'm cutting out my base and I'm putting it to the side. Alright, next up we're going to be cutting the front panel to the shanty. This pretty much just has one door and has the slanted roof. So first off, we're just going to measure out where we're putting the door to the approximate spacing of the roof. Then we're going to draw our roof lines. And then once we get all this sorted out, then we'll start to cut the piece. Of course, this takes me a little bit of time to measure out everything exactly the way I want it. This was not being built for any rivet counters. This is primarily just taking a design that I liked and making it my own. This is built in O scale, which is 1/4 inch for approximately every 1 foot. This could be built to any size. This is just what I use. Remember, good enough is what you're aiming for. After all, this is for your enjoyment, and it should bring you a good time. Alright, now we're going to be measuring out the back, and this has one window, so just going to try and get that as center as we can. Now we're going to be cutting that window out. Just be careful not to overcut or cut yourself. Sometimes it's a bit tricky because it doesn't actually go all the way through the cardboard. But with a little work, we managed to get that out. Now we're just going to cut off another piece, and we're going to use this for our side panels. So we could use our previous cutout backing just to get the height of the piece correct, since we don't actually need to make it higher due to the roof line coming down. So now I'm just going to measure out a nice square and cut that. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. Now we're just going to measure out roughly where the height of the window is on both pieces. And we're just going to take our other piece and use it as a stencil to cut out the same size square. And then I'm just going to cut those pieces out with a knife carefully. Alright, our next step after we get this last one cut is to assemble everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my base and I'm going to cut the bottom piece out. This will give me some room to work on the inside. Alright, up next we're going to be gluing all our pieces together with hot glue. So this one's pretty straightforward. We're just going to put our front and back panels on the elongated sides and glue our side pieces into place. The last piece could be a bit tricky, but I find it best to just start on the bottoms. Then you could kind of pull the sides apart a little bit to get that hot glue in there, and then just push everything together nicely. And yeah, that's pretty much about it for this piece. Next up, we're going to be working on the siding for the little shanty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my cereal boxes, and I'm just going to measure out some pieces and pretty much cut some very fine lines. This will just pretty much be used for all our shingling. So what I like to do is I just like to measure out some pieces by just putting little dots with the knife in. This way I don't have to measure each and every time. I could just kind of give myself a rough approximate. And I'm just going to cut out maybe 5 or 6 pieces. That'll probably be enough for this since it's a fairly small building. So I'll use some scissors to cut off the pieces, and then I'll pull them apart since they like to stick together sometimes. Now it's just a matter of measuring out where I want to put them. So I'm going to just make my lines for the roof lines and about where I feel some of the pieces are going to go. Alright, so now I'm going to go and pull out my tacky glue, and I'm just going to put a fair amount down. This will dry clear, so I'm not going to necessarily worry about putting too much down. So now we're just going to kind of measure it up, and we're going to cut off the ends with some flesh cutters or nippers or whatever you want to call them. So pretty much just take your time and line them up as nice as you can. Once you get a few lines down, then we'll just add some more glue for the top portion, and then continue onwards and get the rest of these put into place. And we'll do this all the way to the top. I'm only going to show off doing this on one side since it's pretty much the same on the other side. It's a fairly lengthy process, but we'll continue onward with our next part. Alright, so up next we're going to be making some thinner pieces of cardboard, and these are just going to be glued as vertical strips instead of horizontal strips. This will give us some additional depth to the building and just a completely different look for the entrance. So we're just going to glue these up one at a time and then cut them to about the size they should be. Once again, the glue will dry clear, so I don't have to worry too heavily about if I apply too much. Because once we start painting it and adding some chalk for weathering, it'll hide it all anyways. Alright, that's pretty much the front of that done. Alright, in this portion of the video, we're going to be working on the roof. So what I'm going to be doing is just taking another piece of our cereal box and cutting it to the shape it should be. This is fairly straightforward as it's just got one bend in it for the actual apex of the roof. So we'll just cut that off and then we'll just fold it. I am going to put some tape for my roof shingling, but I somehow lost the video recording for that. But pretty much all I did was just put strips of tape on it. Here I'm just cutting off the excess as I made it a little bit too long. And there we go, that's the roof done. Alright, so next up we're going to be making our door frame. So we're just going to apply some glue around our door, and then we're going to be cutting some panels to pretty much make an outline of our door. We're also going to be doing that to the window frames as well, on the sides and back of the building. And then we're going to be making a door from scratch. So for the door, I just cut a rectangle out of our cereal box. And then I cut some thin pieces out so I can make an outline of the door itself. And then we're going to cut some additional pieces to just make the door look like it has some pattern on it. So now that we got all the pieces cut out, we're going to just glue our panels to the bottom and work our way up the door. This just gives it some additional detail. Nice, now that the door is all done, we're just going to glue it in place. And in my case, I'm going to have it open a bit. Alright, now we're just going to be cutting out some little pieces for details. I'm going to put a little box on the side. I'm going to be adding a shelf for the front, an awning for the front, and some other fine details. So I'm just going to cut these out of our remaining piece of cereal box. There's quite a few little pieces, but you could be as intricate as you want or as detailed as you want. I'm kind of taking the latter approach. So pretty much just going to glue our awning in right here. Already got our box on the side. And now we're just going to be adding our little shelf to the front of this. And now I'm just going to pretty much have the next clip running at 20 times speed because I kind of went a little bit overboard, adding a lot of tiny little fine details pretty much anywhere I could. I felt it really added to the piece as it was already becoming quite intricate, and I did manage to find the clip of me just putting the tape down for the top. Pretty much this is the way I made my roofing shingles, and I just cut off the excess. Next up, we're going to be taking a drinking straw, and I'm just going to put it down in a hole that I made earlier, and then we're just going to cut it off with some scissors and glue it into place. Alright, next up we're going to be doing the painting. Now I'm going to speed this up times 10 because there's quite a bit of it, and I wasn't quite sure how to edit it in a way to really show how I paint with my technique. But yeah, if you made it to this point, please subscribe and drop a like. This has been a massive project. I've been working on this for weeks, so I definitely appreciate it. Alright, back to painting. So I'm just going to paint the primary portion of the building one solid color, and then we're going to be painting the roof black. And then a bit later we'll go back in with some chalk just to add in some extra fine details. Then we'll be painting the chimney silver as well as some of the other details on the building. And then we're going to be adding in the window glazing. For this I just cut out the strawberry container I showed earlier, and we'll be gluing those into place. I will scratch one piece to act as a cracked window just for extra flavor. Alright, that pretty much completes the paint job for this building. Now we're going to add some chalk to really make it shine. Or in actuality, make it look dirty. So pretty much what I do is I just take some chalk and use my paintbrush to just pick up a little bit and pretty much put whatever color I feel really fits in place. As you'll see, I'll go all around the building just to give it some wear. And then I'll put some on the roof near the chimney just to make it look like, you know, some rust or something. Just add a little bit more to the top. And that's pretty much it. This has definitely been a project. But I think it turned out great. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Here are some nice close-ups of the side and the front, with the shelf and the door halfway open, as well as my container on the side, and the roof with the stain from the chimney, and the back. Thanks for watching to the end. Hope to see you all next time.